This is a clouds weather alert. Tracking Nicole.
Good Tuesday evening, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center giving you the latest on Tropical Storm Nicole. Could be upgraded to a hurricane here pretty soon, maybe even in that next advisory from the National Hurricane Center that we're going to get out here in just a few moments. We'll have that live for you here on Clouds Weather. Looking at the infrared satellite, you may be wondering, well, this doesn't really look like a normal type system. It did transition, though, from a subtropical storm to a tropical storm today, so that can allow for some strengthening for this storm system to become more organized here. So be watching for that as we look ahead here in the timeline. I know you can see those cloud tops aren't very clear to have recon on here. We did find some stronger winds there on this map. The recon did here. So we'll just have to see what the Hurricane Center does with that to see if they think the winds are strong enough to upgrade to this as a hurricane, upgrade it to a hurricane or not. But let's go ahead and take that off for just a second so we can look at the cloud tops. I mean, this does not show a lot of that moisture you see with many of these systems, but it's a broad system, a broad wind field. In fact, I'll go ahead and put our wind radius on, and these winds, and you can see the track of the winds, the yellow area showing some of the stronger gust, wide range there, away there from the storm actual center. So widespread winds here with this setup. Very interesting to see overall. You can see we even have some red areas, purple areas here where we have some of the stronger gusts, maybe the hurricane force even possible as this makes landfall. I mean, I'll be watching this as it kind of moves across here. As we look ahead into toward tomorrow on your Wednesday, and then as we get past tomorrow, past your Wednesday, into toward that Thursday morning, early Thursday, maybe in the wee hour to Thursday is when this is expected to make landfall there as the latest track. But again, we could get a new update here that changes things a little bit here soon. May not see a lot of a change here with the overall thinking, but we'll just kind of keep our eyes on this here as the situation progresses. I know we'll go ahead and zoom in to see where our system is showing us that landfall point as of the latest update around Port St. Lucie, give or take there, as we're looking toward southeast toward east central Florida, somewhere in that southeast Florida, east central Florida range. But again, we'll keep our eyes on this here. But I want to see some other things in terms of our graphics right now. Let's go ahead and see those. We'll kind of give you an update here from that graphical standpoint. Again, we're tracking Nicole here, something you rarely see in November, very rare. I mean, we haven't even had a hit along the east coast of Florida that often, and with recent times with a hurricane, even in the earlier months. I mean, we had a lot off the coast like Matthew, Dory, and there to go off the coast to have impacts from other systems, but the last direct landfall of a hurricane any time of year in Florida on the east coast I'm talking about, of course. We've seen plenty on the west coast, the Gulf Coast, but on the east coast itself, you have to go all the way back to Katrina in '05. That was the Cat 1 before it really powered up in the Gulf of Mexico as it headed, of course, as we all know, toward New Orleans there. This is not going to be Katrina, obviously, in terms of what they saw toward Louisiana, but just interesting to compare things. Last hurricane to hit Florida in November was in '85 with Kate. That was in the Florida Panhandle, and the last hit the Florida Peninsula in November there. Last hurricane 1935. So definitely interesting to see. Here's that bulletin again. I keep showing this, but it's just worth a reminder of how impactful Kate was there in '85. Now the overall highest winds with this aren't expected to be as high as what we saw with Kate there. Some of these areas saw Cat 2 type of winds as we were getting there early on in the timeline, causing a lot of issues around Tallahassee. Now this system, well, we're not expecting maybe those issues as much around Tallahassee, but I have changed the numbers around here just a little bit based on the latest guidance that we're getting in. So let's go ahead and see the update here from the National Hurricane Center from 7 o'clock. Again, Nicole there is our name. We've checked the other ones off on the list. We have Owen, Paula, Richard. After this, hopefully we don't have to use anymore. Hopefully this will be the last system. But again, hurricane season does run here for the full month still, pretty much, as we still have about 3/4 of that, give or take, 2/3 of that left. And of course, we have Thanksgiving. Hopefully by then things will be calming on down. We're going to have cooler air coming into the picture, I know, as we look ahead later on in toward the weekend. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. But here's that track as of the 4 o'clock update, the actual full advisory, and the 7 o'clock intermediate advisory. Gave us some interesting information. I want to say we'll get a new update here again in just a moment. But you see the minimum pressure here is at 984 millibars. That's more indicative of what you see there in a hurricane. So that's definitely interesting I know that movement there off toward the west-southwest at 10 miles an hour. Those maximum sustained winds at 65 miles an hour. And look at this large wind field here, folks. Definitely telling the story. You can see here, this is such a huge area of those tropical force type winds, those 39-mile plus winds here. And that's headed toward some areas here, obviously, in the state of Florida. But even see a tropical storm watch all the way up into South Carolina. So pretty interesting. But the hurricane warning as the last update, again, a new update coming here at about 10 o'clock. I know the time change kind of shifts things around a little in terms of that. So we'll have that for you. So that's kind of why we're just kind of looking at some different things here in the chat session to give you that information as soon as it comes out here, that latest update. But you see here, the hurricane warning was in play, and it still is at this point anyway, from Flagler, Volusia County line area there to Boca Raton. So that's where we're really watching things in that most concerned mindset. But as you get up the coast there's a hurricane watch for parts of our area. We're talking about there from around Ponte Vedra Beach there down toward that Flagler, Volusia County line. So we just have to keep watching that. Even a hurricane watch there from Hallandale Beach there as well to Boca Raton, Lake Okeechobee there as well. And then a tropical storm warning in play there from the Flagler, Volusia County line to the Altamaha Sound. There are eastern coast. There, all that included under that tropical storm warning, really. So we're watching for that potential. There's some alerts out toward the west coast. You see a tropical storm watch in play. We'll break that down with our other mapping in just a moment. But you can kind of see here 65-mile-an-hour wind, still a pretty formidable storm here as we get toward 1 p.m. on Thursday, but starting to wind down a little bit more as we get toward Friday at 1 a.m. If this stays over land, if it shifts a little west here in the cone, that could change things along the coast there, and the west coast, especially to some extent. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll again have that latest update there with at least the track itself on our other system here in just a few moments. But just continuing to watch things here. I know I'm just looking at some of our notes, just seeing exactly what's going on here. So many other large storm surge warnings in play. Of course, we're pretty concerned about that storm surge, and then that wind threat there, especially closer to the center, is where we're seeing maybe those hurricane type of gusts. But even in our area, we could have gusts just under that level here. So that'll be something to watch for sure. But that storm surge is definitely something we really need to focus on here. The storm surge warning, at the last check, North Palm Beach there to the Altamaha Sound. So going to be watching things in that area for sure. And then also the mouth of the St. Johns River to Georgetown, Florida. I know that's in Putnam County. We're expecting 3 to 5 feet of storm surge in that area. So that's something that's pretty substantial in nature here. And we're talking about a situation, folks, where you really need to pay attention along the coast. I know already evacuations issued there toward parts of Flagler County and our covered area, as we could be seeing life-threatening flooding. These numbers are very high and relative fast into what we see in some other systems here in history. So just got to be careful, as we could also have potentially devastating beach erosion, those dangerous rip currents, and then very high surf. I don't want to be adding the water, of course, there as we're looking ahead. You can have potentially deadly conditions there that are really out and about, as you also see not just the storm surge threat there from the Altamaha Sound to North Palm Beach, where it's 3 to 5 feet above ground level, but 2 to 4 feet is what we're expecting there along the west coast toward our covered area. The Ocklawaha River there to the Antclot River, so we're going to be watching that carefully, and even 1 to 2 feet there from Indian Pass to the Ocklawaha River. So we're just going to be kind of seeing how things transpire on us here with this setup. I know we don't generally want to be talking about stuff like this in November here. There's other things to talk about here in the news cycle, and generally it's not hurricanes. But this year that has changed, unfortunately, as we have to watch either a strong tropical storm, if not a hurricane at landfall. I mean, seeing the winds already pretty strong with this. I think we'll probably have a hurricane. It's just a different type of look to it on the satellite right now, and it may kind of maintain that. There's some of our high-res models are trying to develop more banding in there. It's an unusual situation altogether, but we'll be here to give you the latest through the whole event here. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch will keep you guys informed as we want to go ahead and compare things. Again, I did this last night. These are the numbers I was showing last night, and you saw the 3 to 5 feet there. That's in this range. I mean, with storms like Irma and Jean here, even 2 to 4 feet would be in there with storms like Ian and Francis. So that's what we got to be careful. And I know some evacuations already issued toward Flagler County and then Mayport there. Same type of deal here as well, comparing things with like Irma and Matthew. Jean, I know, made landfall in a pretty similar spot. They were different type of storms, Jean and Francis in '04 compared to this, and they were a little bit stronger with the winds, more traditional type of tropical cyclones, but still definitely impactful here. That's what we're going to be watching for you here in the Weather Center as we go ahead and now show you some of our other information here that's so important, and that's about the most likely arrival times here of the winds and the chances for those tropical force winds. You see the purple, pretty much 100% chance, and even that red area and the orange, I mean, have pretty good chances of these tropical force winds. But time is something to focus on here as well. So you see here these times. I know it can get a little confusing. I tried to make this a little bit bigger than I had it last night, but you have about 8 p.m. tomorrow here as we kind of work our way up the coast a little bit with the arrival of these winds there along the East Coast that are really just too dangerous to be out in. I mean, honestly, I would have my preps done even a little bit earlier than that, though, because we're already getting some of these squalls to move on in. In fact, let's go ahead and say now our watches and warnings and radar and winds. You'll kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about there. I mean, especially down toward central Florida. But we've even had gusts there in that 50 range in Flagler County today, out ahead of this with that nor'easter type of condition around. So you can see here these storms as we get along east central Florida. And then you see all these alerts. I mean, we have hurricane warnings there along the coast there in central Florida. Then you have the tropical storm warning in our area for many zones now. Again, a big change from yesterday when we had a lot less of a covered area filled in on this map. So just something to kind of be mindful of here for sure. You can see a tropical storm watch in play from about the Franklin McCullough coast there through Jefferson, Madison, Taylor, also over toward Hamilton, Swanee, Lafayette County there. You can see Columbia, Union, Baker, Charlton, Brantley, Dixie, Levy, but in tropical storm warnings, meaning these tropical conditions, tropical storm force conditions are likely within 36 hours toward areas like Gilchrist and Alachua and Bradford and areas there toward Marion, Putnam, Clay, over toward Duval, St. John's, Flagler, Nassau, Camden, Glen, trying to get everybody in there. So you kind of get the idea, though. Definitely watching things. And we could have a little bit of an update of this here when the new update does come out from the Hurricane Center in a few minutes. But you see some of these scattered storms here along the coast right now that we're tracking. I know these can have some little gusts in them here that can make things a little bit hazardous, at least for a few minutes if you're trying to prepare for the storm. Maybe not a prolonged period, but at least for a few minutes. So just got to keep that in mind here as well. As you see these gusts already in the 20s and 30s down here, and in our area the same type of deal, 20s and 30s. I mean, tropical force gusts there around Fernandina Beach just a little while ago. So that kind of tells the weather story here. You just got to be careful with these type of gusts that are around, because once you get to that tropical force criteria, you really start to maybe have issues. I mean, making preparations there, because if you're like on a roof or something, it could, I mean, blow you off of the roof even in the wrong type of situation. So I just gotta be careful here as these winds pick up. The conditions continue to deteriorate, but it's really gonna get nasty here tomorrow night locally into Ward early Thursday. Thursday does not look like a day you want to be out and about. I know we already have some schools that have closed here on Thursday, but I'm expecting more school closures here as we look ahead into Ward to timelines. That's something I have to be mindful of here. Now, Veteran Day activities early on in Friday doesn't look that great, though. As we get toward the high school football time frame, things are looking better for that as of this point. I know some games have already been shifted around, but it was more about the cleanup here, more about the cleanup maybe, and the impediment on the road that could cause the game to be postponed, and the actual storm conditions there. As we just got the new update in here, folks, just coming in. It's still a tropical storm. We don't know any more than that until we get to other systems. So let me go ahead and pop that up, see what type of changes we might have. See what type of alert changes we might have. So that new advisory is this coming in now from the National Hurricane Center in Miami. So now they're saying it's very near hurricane strength while headed for the northwestern Bahamas. So let's go ahead. We'll put our satellite on here. I'm going to zoom out just a little so I'll be able to give you the best perspective on this where I am on the wall even. So you can see here it's in pretty good alignment with our consensus model. That's what that pinkish dot is representing now. Our white dots represent the official forecast. We have this here going through the Bahamas. There's about a Cat 1 hurricane there. Probably will be a Cat 1, probably not just a strong tropical storm, but actually a Cat 1 at that point. And then you see a landfall here, kind of do the extrapolation here. I know probably about 6Z, give or take there, so about 1 a.m. on that new time frame toward areas here between either southeast Florida or east central Florida. So kind of have to extrapolate out. Still got Port St. Lucie, it looks like, as we kind of eyeball this live here. Let me move this so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm kind of drawing a line here. Granted, you don't want to focus just on the center. I know I'm doing that a little because if we have an eye wall, that could enhance the impacts, closer to that, down toward the south. But this is going to be a wide-ranging storm, as I've already showed you. That wind field forecast here. That wind field forecast definitely is showing that. I mean, the winds, these areas represent gusts maybe to tropical force all the way here through Georgia and South Carolina. So it's a wide type of ranging impact here that we're going to be dealing with. So that new update coming in, we got some more details now from the Hurricane Center in Miami. So let me go ahead and pop them up in front of me so I can read off to you what they have, because there may be some information I really need to pass along to you guys right now for this rare November threat. So it's up to 70 there in terms of those winds. Now there's max sustained winds up to 70 miles an hour. As I'll go ahead and zoom back out the map real quick here so you see what we're talking about with this latest update. So let's go ahead and kind of go over this. So at 10 p.m., the storm center is located about 150 miles east-northeast of Great Abaco Island there, and 325 miles east of West Palm Beach, Florida. We're talking about those maximum sustained winds there, again around 70 miles an hour, but some higher gusts possible. That present movement toward the west-southwest at about 10 miles an hour, and that minimum pressure 984 millibars. So the changes with this advisory. So the storm surge watch has now been extended along the west coast there, along the Florida Panhandle, even there, from the Ocklawaha River to the Indian Pass area. So that's the only change it looks like. So not too many changes. So that's the update we got in storm surge watch there in play as we're getting from the Ant Cloud River to Indian Pass. But we're going to be just watching this situation overall because, of course, we have the storm surge warning in play, as we've already talked about, the Altamaha Sound to North Palm Beach, Florida, and the mouth of the St. Johns River to Georgetown, Florida, all in our area with the St. Johns River impact with that surge based on that as of now. But looking at our surge values, still 3 to 5 feet. That's what they're showing with that. So just want to make sure we're giving you the very latest information here right now as we're live on the air. In fact, let's see if I can pull up our cone perspective here. We should have that in our source here that I can show that to you on the air in just a moment. So it's on our website. I don't have it where I can put it into our graphics, but just to give you an updated look at things here, I should be able to put this on the screen for you. We'll just go to our website where you can get this updating all the time there, cloudweather.com, so you can get the very latest from this, and when I'm not on the air, but when I'm on the air as well. So I'm just kind of trying to give you some different methods here, some different tools for you to understand what's going on with Nicole. So we'll go ahead and pull this up now here. Tracking Nicole, that new track is out. So let's go ahead and see that to you on our website right now. I'll go ahead and share the screen with you here in about 5 seconds, give or take. I just kind of thought of this on the fly here. So give me just a moment, but we're just going to be watching this situation another time. The storm surge toward the Bahamas definitely could be going off more toward 4 to 6 feet here. Definitely watching this situation carefully, but I know I'll go ahead and share this screen as we do this with you on the fly. We'll go ahead and take our other source so that can kind of give you a visual on what's going on. As again, we're just getting this information in here from the National Hurricane Center there. This is the website if you're wondering where we're at. And you can see that track. I have it zoomed out on here, but just kind of give this to you in a little bit of a broad perspective. You see here about 7 a.m. on Thursday, moving across parts there of central Florida, and 7 p.m. there. Still impacting our area on Thursday, but 7 a.m. the center on Friday, moving to the north, but still could have some windy conditions hanging around through much of the day. But by the time you get to high school football, that should be an improving situation that we'll have on our hands. So just want to give you a look real quick at the website, the storm surge forecast here. That map updated here as well. So you can see 3 to 5 feet still the anticipation there. The mouth of the St. Johns River, and then also the Altamaha Sound there to North Palm Beach. So just wanted to say this to you. I pop it up live for you here. You can get these updates. I might try to change that map here in a little bit so it's a little bit tighter zoomed in like what I was using on my other map here as we're getting more focused here on that Florida type of impact. So let's go ahead now, move away from this. I'll pop back on camera, see the infrared satellite again as we continue to watch things here in the Weather Center. I know we're getting some updates on the tropical storm alerts right now. A lot of this come out. You can get those there, cloud_WX on Twitter. So we'll just keep on watching things in that regard as well. But let's go back to this graphic now. I know we're getting a new one in, but the same principles still really ring true here. As you can see, a mandatory evacuation, Flagler Zone A, deciding whether evacuation is necessary. That's very important. So just keep in mind that staying in areas that are vulnerable to storm surge can be risky here. And then if you choose to stay, potentially life-threatening storm surge could arrive there, and you don't want to be in that type of scenario. Nothing like what we saw there toward Fort Myers Beach, but still for our area here, it could be on the higher end of things. You saw several of those events here in the recent years. I mean, those, and one of those spots, I know Dora is a historical point in there, and it's not even the top 5 anymore. We just had so many of these events here the last several years. So that's definitely telling here as we've just really seen a nasty little stretch here. Unfortunately, another storm, if you can believe it, with Nicole impacting the northeast Florida coast. Again, just also got to keep in mind electricity could be out for a period. Get important supplies there and charge up those devices. Because that wind, especially closer to the center, but even, I mean, honestly, the more I look at things, these winds go up a little bit higher in the forecast. I mean, some areas could be out of power for a few days here as we get toward the coast. I mean, maybe even it's possible an isolated area gets even a little bit longer than that. So, especially those coastal areas, those areas under the hurricane warning, that's when we're talking here, maybe several days without power here, versus in our area, maybe our southern and southeastern counties, maybe an area or two has a outage that lasts a few days. So it's hard to forecast those. So I don't want to set any amounts there exactly, but we'll go ahead and now try to give you that peak wind gust forecast, breaking things down area by area here. Isolated to scattered power outages are likely. You see gusts, I've raised these numbers a little bit. Palm Coast to 70 miles an hour. That's the anticipation there. You can see toward Gainesville, Jacksonville, and the west coast there of Florida here in our area. I'm talking about Dixie, Levy. We're talking about gusts about 60 miles an hour or so there, too. You can kind of get that idea there on this map. I know when we're watching the East Coast, it's that wind coming off the water. We've seen this with Irma. The wind speeds are just a little bit higher right at the coast here in this type of circumstance, despite the center and how things are organized directly. So that's why things have been weighted a little bit toward the coast, even though the landfall is going to be further south, and it's going to be kind of coming up here across the state a little. So that's one reason we had to raise Gainesville a little bit, and that does impact Start to some degree as well. Again, Thursday, at this point, it looks like it's the day you won't want to be out here in much of our area. Maybe not everybody. Albany may be a different story, but it just depends here, because the storm system is going to be moving on in here pretty quickly, it looks like, as we're looking ahead there. But you can see Valdosta, Tallahassee, we're talking about gusts about 50 miles an hour, so in toward that direction. So a little bit lower overall, but just continuing to watch things. It's a scattered power outage. It's definitely a possibility here in our covered area as we're looking, especially south and east. These higher winds, about 60 or so, is when you start really losing power. So you have to really be mindful that hopefully maybe one gust wouldn't do it, but we've seen that in severe thunderstorms where you start having power outages at about 60 miles an hour. That's why that's that severe thunderstorm warning criteria there. When you have a 60-mile-an-hour wind, that's considered damaging wind gusts. So let's go ahead and see now, though, our rainfall forecast. You can see here, I've raised these numbers a little bit, not a lot, but Tallahassee, I raised the rain just in case This moves a little bit further west here, but still 1 to 3 inches, maybe a drier side still over there. 1 to 3 toward Valdosta, 2 to 4 there toward the coastal areas there along the Big Bend and Nature Coast, but 2 to 4 inches Gainesville, Brunswick as well here. But as you see toward Jacksonville and Palm Coast, 3 to 5 inches look to be the story. I've raised those numbers a little bit because just some of the models here, some more higher res models are trying to pick up on maybe heavier downpours developing in a general tropical sense here. You normally have higher amounts for the track like this here in our area, so we're going to make sure we're preparing you. Some folks getting sandbags there, so just to keep that in mind. The higher numbers would be more of a concern, but I know out toward North Central Florida, we're not as concerned about getting sandbags unless you live in a really vulnerable area. Of course, that's your decision, but and things can always shift around. Some localized areas can get more rain than others, but the flood watch that we have in play right now is for the Northeast Florida zone, so not Bradford, but areas like Clay there, over where Duval, St. John's, that's where we have that flood watch in play, where we talk more about this 3 to 5 inch type total setting on up. So we'll be watching that, and then here's the overall official rainfall forecast from the Weather Prediction Center for the next 3 days or so. You can see here no rain there really expected toward Mississippi, Louisiana, except in western Louisiana there. But as you see further on over, we have these totals, and you have to look at the color scale here a little bit. I know as we look toward Florida, we have some areas 3 inches, 4 inches of possibility here. As we get toward that east coast here on average, I mean, definitely couldn't walk 5 inches though. That's why I went 3 to 5. That's what the Weather Service has with the flood warning, flood watch, excuse me. As we're watching for the potential of flash flood warnings or flood warnings to be issued later on. And just want to err on the side of caution here. I definitely want to do that. So just continue to watch this map. I'm going to step out real quick of the shot so you can get a better perspective on what we're dealing with here with the rainfall forecast. I just want to show everything to you guys from a little bit wider look here. You can just see all that moisture toward the Bahamas as well. Even higher rainfall amounts out there, it looks like, according to this forecast. So just kind of see some areas further off toward the east. But I'll pop back and you see some of the rain even going up toward the Carolinas, West Virginia here. And I see the local hurricane statements come out now. See if there's any changes to pass along with the watches and warnings. Sometimes it's a little hard to do on the fly here, but we'll try to get those to see if there's any changes that you need to know about. But when we're not on cloudweather.com/radar, I'll give you an interactive look at things with that radar perspective. But then when we're on here, we'll be on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch here. And we'll just be watching all the different threads that develop. We'll probably be on for a while. I mean, it's a pretty historic event in terms of the time of year it is. Now, it's not a historic storm in terms of just catastrophic impacts or anything like that. But for our area, the storm surge values are up there with some of the higher ones we've seen in spots. So that's why we got to take this seriously, and evacuation may be needed here, or really quite a bit of mitigation in play at least to really protect yourself here in these type of circumstances. So again, just watching things here with this, but we'll go ahead and look at that tornado threat now. Tomorrow, you see our marginal risk here toward Jacksonville, toward Orlando, toward Melbourne, West Palm Beach. That is a 1 out of 5 concern. It starts to come in here. We'll be on standby, of course, if we need to come on, but for our area, probably more late Wednesday into Thursday for that. But then on Thursday, that threat may maximize locally. Things might come together more so. And certainly does remain on your stay tuned for updates. And it's not on here, but we have a threat on Friday that lingers as well. But here's that Thursday threat. Let me go ahead and see that. You can kind of see here it's darker green where we have the marginal risk here for that action all the way up in the ward of Wilmington. But you see here quite a wide range of north central Florida here included. So got to be watching southeast Georgia here as well for some of that tornadic action. That northeastern quadrant is where the more favorable action would here be with a tornado threat. It's the dirty side of a storm, so we got to bear that in mind here with Nicole, which again expected to become a hurricane here and be the first hurricane to hit Florida in the month of November since 1985, and the first to hit the Florida Peninsula in the month of November since 1935. The last one, Cape, in the Panhandle there, and impacted Tallahassee pretty severely back in '85. So crazy to see here again in November. The tornado threat, I mean, we have that from time to time with other type of scenarios in play, but really not with a tropical system in November. I know we had Ada a couple years ago, but that wasn't something that was overwhelming with this impact here. This is a different story here for some spots potentially. So got to be mindful, got to be watching. And we had some tornado warnings downstate with that, not as much upstate, but worth it to continue to watch here. As a tornado watch and multiple tornado watches could be issued. That mean conditions are favorable for tornadic activity and close to the watch area. You want to target those devices in case of power loss and have multiple ways to receive alerts. And if a tornado warning is issued here, that means a tornado is detected using radar spotted. You want to seek shelter inside that sturdy building. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible and protect yourself from flying debris. Put on that bicycle helmet. I mean, we keep rehashing these here over and over, but I just want to keep doing it because I want folks to be prepared in case they have a tornado threat that does develop here with Nicole. So let's break things down now toward the Stark area. I wanted to go to a hyper-local type graphic here. We've done this in the past, and I wanted to do this here for Stark and Bradford County. That's where we're at. I know the winds have already been gusting a little bit here toward Bradford County today. Out ahead of this, looking at my anemometer, gust 8. Wow, 15 right when I look at it here. That's really high for this time of night here. Getting that easterly, northeasterly type wind. And had a gust as high as 22 miles an hour earlier on here on this Tuesday. So already getting gusty winds, but we're expecting generally, now my anemometer may underdo things just a little bit, but generally 30 to 40 mile an hour type of winds here as we're looking late Wednesday through maybe early Friday through Friday morning with the gust of 55 a possibility here, and that starts to be where you have maybe some power outages. 60 is when we really start seeing that, but 55 right on the cusp here, and that could change a little bit as we see the latest here with the organization of the storm system. Now, that's a medium threat here, so just be prepared here for isolated and scattered power outages and charge up those devices. Now, the rainfall threat really isn't something that's looking too severe right now. We actually need some rain. Some of our areas here are away from the east coast itself, 2 to 4 inches here on average. And then a tornado threat here, isolated in nature, so just stay alert here for that medium threat overall, though. I mean, because we do have some parameters trying to come in place. Seems like Thursday we got some instability mixing with some shear here. That could be an issue that we'll need to follow here. That development could be something that does occur. So we'll just have to see how that kind of goes. But again, late Wednesday to early Friday, that's when you really don't want to be out here if you can avoid it here as we're looking at things. I know that does kind of look like a more positive outlook here maybe for high school football Friday night, but there could still be people with power outages or there could be limbs down, things like that. So even if we're starting to clean up here, we got to take into consideration that we could have some impact still on our hands as things are still maybe not quite back to normal. We'll just see how it goes. Maybe we'll get lucky, but here's some places where you can get sandbags in Bradford County as the last check there from the sheriff's office. The self-serve sites available at the 2 Bradford County Fire Rescue Stations. So Helburn Springs there is one of them, Station 40, Sampson City Station 90 here. These have been available here for a while in the timeline. Just wanted to pass these along, though, to you. Other counties as well have them, but we can't go over all that here on the air. It would just take too long, but again, watching potential school closures as well. Again, Thursday right now does not look like a good day to be out and about here in Bradford County. I know Friday already Veterans Day, so that's a little bit different. You don't have to make a decision there for that necessarily, but on Thursday right now, it really doesn't look like a good day to be out and about here. Based on the latest models, things can always shift around, but we just want to err on the side of caution, I would think, in this type of situation for you Thursday. So we'll keep our eyes on that, but let's go ahead now and see the rain chances for north central Florida. We don't have a full forecast cycle in terms of those temperatures, things like that, but you can see on that Wednesday there, 50% chance of rain. Gusty winds expected, the rain really coming in later on after sunset. So you have tomorrow, with the exception of those winds being gusty again, to prepare here. But on Thursday, that's when we have the tropical storm conditions expected. That 90% chance of rain, really about 100. Or maybe a spot gets lucky or unlucky and doesn't get the rain. But on Friday, 60% chance here. And by the way, we just got a report in as I look at the chat right now. They just had a gust already right this moment here being reported in. It happened just a few moments ago to 50 Marineland there, 50 mile an hour gust there at the weather stem station. So already seeing those winds pick up. I mean, that can lead to some isolated power outages even now as we're looking out there toward northeast Florida and the first coast. But Again, you see the chances Friday 60%. I have that down a little from what I had because it seems like the moisture is going to kind of clear out of the picture later on. Better picture for high school football, but as Veterans Day events, I mean, it's iffy. I know some areas are already making those decisions. It's a tough call, but I know some areas definitely are on that side of caution here, and you can't go wrong doing that. As we look ahead towards Saturday, you can see here 20% chance of rain. A nicer day for storm cleanup here. So that's something to kind of try to enjoy. Temperatures look like they're going to warm up more for Saturday versus some of our other days later on in the timeline. So that'll be good news in time for that weekend to get past this. We don't want to talk about any more storms here, named storms in 2022 that are impacting Florida. We didn't think really, realistically, I doubt many meteorologists thought we'd be talking about this on the week of election week, their election day. And with the beginning of college basketball and of course Veterans Day as well, high school football playoffs beginning in Florida. So many things coming together here in the timeline here, and unbelievable to see this. But we have seen in the past. We talk about Kate in '85. We bring it up, I think, every year. The chances aren't high, but we always have had that historical landmark there in the sand per se from '85, talking about Kate here. And with a hurricane hitting the state in November, and now we very well may add Nicole here in 2022 as another marker here. Have been as we go back, 1935 there was the last one that hit the peninsula in November. So you have to go back there in the timeline doing the math on the fly. That's 87 years since we've had the last one hit, and I don't think many people around here remember that, but just incredible to see how long it's been since we've had a hurricane hit the Florida peninsula in November, and that might be about to change here in just a little over 24 hours or so as we go ahead now and switch some things on over as we continue to watch things here in the Weather Center. Let's say our infrared satellite. You can see here, again, I mean, the colder cloud tops aren't there, but this is a different type of system here, folks, that we're dealing with. And they saw a 51 mile an hour gust there, and let's try that again. The Weather Service in Jacksonville saw a peak gust here to about 51 miles an hour at the 940 in their system at Marineland. So definitely some stronger winds already picking on up here. But this is such an interesting system that we're dealing with. Again, the wind here and the surge more predominant than with most systems, and the rain a little less predominant than with most systems. So the sandbags are more necessary for those areas in the St. Johns River and some of those areas here that are impacted by that. And then also the coastal areas that beach erosion. Again, the Weather Service is their wording here. It could be devastating here for our coastal areas. We've really got to take that into consideration. This could be a devastating beach erosion event. And with all that wind that's pushing on in there, and then the storm surge, serious factor, life-threatening nature. As you see here, our lower pressure. I'll take the wind fields off because it gets kind of cluttered with everything on here. And by the way, just to say how weird things have been here in the weather world today, a tornado threat in Southern California, a 2% one right now. We won't go into that, but haven't had any warnings, I don't think, with that. But just incredible some of the odd weather patterns we're seeing right now. But yeah, you can see here the northeasterly type of wind coming on in. It's a beach beating. It's going to keep getting worse here as we look ahead into where the timeline. And again, this system here, the lower pressure, you see the isobars, if you look real close there, that's showing those lower pressures in the 980s, folks. I mean, let's see what we had again on that. I have the advisory up here, the public advisory from the Hurricane Center. We're talking about the pressure down to 984 millibars, and that's something really, kind of look at this. That's more what you see with a hurricane, folks. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see that here. An unusual system as we're continuing to watch things here in the Weather Center. Definitely something we're not used to seeing. Here in November, but it's headed toward the Sunshine State here as we look ahead early Thursday for that landfall. But again, the worst day for northeast Florida, north central Florida looks to be Thursday. We'll see if things kind of nasty here. Some of our areas on Friday into the afternoon, thinking more morning though, as that lower pressure and the worst of the action moves up into Georgia here as we get in toward that late Thursday, early Friday time frame. So again, we'll continue to watch things here in the Weather Center. We're just going to keep watching all the latest updates of hurricane warning in play from Boca Raton to the Flagler, Volusia County line there. So watching that impact. Let's see if we have some new alerts here for you. I know sometimes this gets a little bit hard to update here on us when we're live. So let me see if there's been anything sent out here, because it's very hard to see because they send them out county by county. You can get that at clouds_WX on Twitter, but it's something that'd be too hard to really sort out live. If I were to even say that here on the air, it would take us a few minutes to sort it out. It doesn't seem like anything's new, but there definitely could be something new in here from the local standpoint. Of course, the state standpoint, we just had that storm surge watch extended a little off toward the west there, but I don't see anything new at this moment, or maybe a new tropical storm watch for a county or two somewhere though in our area. Let's see if Baker's been added. It looks like they're still in the tropical storm watch, tropical storm warning there. Let me pop up on the map. It's not showing anything new, but sometimes it takes a few minutes to update because these come out different than most of our other alerts here in our system. So the tropical storm warning, as the latest look at things, seems to be more still Gilchrist, Bradford, Nassau, Camden, Glen, off toward the south and east if you want to delineate things like that here. So again, we're just checking some different things. These guys started in the 20s and the 30s here on our map, and some scattered showers to the south. So that's going to be moving in toward Flagler County to get already a gust of 51 miles an hour there, 940 around Marineland. So that kind of tells the story with these nasty conditions, these northeasterly type winds coming in. I know we're at 69 degrees right now here east of Star. That's something you really don't generally see in November too often this time of night. And the warmer water temperatures here, fueling this, just looking at the winds, not too high at this moment. But we're going to be watching things. We're going to be looking at different cameras across the area. We're going to be here. It's our commitment to protect you here from Nicole in the Weather Center on all the different platforms with the live updates as necessary. We stream and radar as needed as well. Satellite maybe, just kind of depends on how things set on up with this. As we look ahead with Nicole here, I know we weren't under a tropical storm warning in Bradford County from Ian. We're under one here with Nicole. So that kind of tells you the impacts here from the wind will be worse, it looks like, than what we saw with Ian and rain. We only had about 1.5 inches. So my forecast 2 to 4 inches means, albeit not an extraordinary impact by any stretch of the imagination, still the rain impact also higher with Nicole at this point based on the latest models. They're still shifting here and there, but it'll be higher impact with the rain from Nicole than with Ian toward Bradford County, and the tornado threat here could be higher. That's something that's hard to kind of discern. That some of our models are showing some rotational parameters, especially Thursday here. So make sure you have multiple ways to get alerts. That threat could begin, according to the Weather Service, there before sunrise on Thursday. So we have to be really on guard for that here as our storm system moves on into the picture, as we're just checking some of our different information that comes into the chat session here. Small craft advisors, obviously, you don't want to be out and about there on the water because things can be very dangerous, hazardous here in this type of circumstance as we're watching a tropical storm that's approaching hurricane strength here on this November 8, 2022. So overall view now on the infrared satellite. I'm going to step out of the way real quick just to kind of give you this whole view again, just kind of show you everything here with this as we're dealing with Nicole. So again, just interesting to see the grand scheme of things as we track Nicole here as it makes landfall in Florida in just a little over 24 hours. Just kind of giving that full view here of things here in the Weather Center on this Tuesday. It seems like it could be Wednesday or Thursday already. We had an extra hour. But we've been very busy here trying to give you the latest information on Nicole here. Again, just under hurricane strength. That update could come out, make it a hurricane at any point here, maybe 1 a.m. This latest track and full advisory and intermediate advisory updates are available, cloudweather.com, the home page. We'll be putting things out as we can here. It's just a one-man band, so I can't be up 24 hours a day posting things, but I'm doing the best I can here. I'm doing the best I can here to keep you guys safe and informed from Nicole as Nicole moves on in. Again, I hate to go off here too quick in case we have new viewers joining us. Just recap a couple things here real quick for you if you were tuning in a little bit earlier on, because I've been on for a while getting those new updates in from the Hurricane Center. I know that storm surge threat here, we're still watching that, and then that wind threat here as well, these gustier winds coming on into the picture here. I just have to be watching for those power outages, maybe a little bit higher threat than what we thought last night. Not extreme, but definitely something that could knock out some power. So be prepared to charge up those devices. Watch out for that dangerous coastal condition here. Dangerous weather there overall, and conditions there toward the St. Johns River as well with that storm surge threat. So I have to watch that here. Watch for that flooding. Remember, turn around, don't drown. very important to do in these type of circumstances. But then that covered everything we need to here for now. Again, we'll be watching things, we'll be tracking. But for now, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud. Have a great night, or at least the best you can.